Well, hello again, YouTube and all you YouTubers. Yeah, it's me again. The old gripe session. My videos, I've been calling them Stop Doing That in archery. If you don't know who I am or my background, you can go back and watch the first video and I give you a little bit of why I think I'm kind of qualified to say this on about archery and on helping you folks out. I am hearing in the last couple of 3 years this front of center on your arrow. Everybody's coming in asking me, you got any 50 grain weights? You got any 100 grain weights? You carry any 150 grain broadheads? Why? You know, when I started in archery back in the 80s, those bows were 48 inches long. They weighed about 5 pounds. They had metal cables on them with 2 little teardrops at the end of them that Dacron, I don't know, I don't remember if it was Dacron or what it was. I don't think it was Dacron, but it might have been. But basically, they had a string on them from a recurve. They were a recurve with wheels. 15% let off. 28-inch bow. We shot an arrow the size of your thumb, aluminum. 5-inch vanes or 5-inch feathers. 2-bladed, 145 grain broadhead. Why? Because back then, them old bows we shot in the 70s, in the 80s, shot about on 60, 65 pounds, 28, 29 inches with them aluminum arrows. You would get about 212 feet a second. You had 15% let off. You could hold the thing for about 15, 20 seconds longer than you could a 60-pound recurve. They were slow. They were loud. We had to hit them deer at, well, as close as we could get them. You know, the average guy back then, we'd shut our shots off 25, 30 yards out, you know. You get one at 40, most time we wouldn't even chance it. You literally could shoot that at the deer at 40 yards. He'd stand there and watch the arrow come by and he'd go, okay, now I'll move. Guys, they were slow. I chronographed them. I had an old bow back in the day in 1985, sitting on 65 pounds, 28-inch draw length, 28-inch aluminum 2214 arrow, I think it was, 5-inch feathers, 145 grain 2-bladed broadhead, and that bow chronoed at 212. That was it. They had wheels on them about that big around. They were a recurve with wheels because that's the only design they could come up with, because that's the only bows that was out there was a recurve before the compounds come along. If you look at the risers on them, the limbs on them, the handles on them, they look just like a recurve. So we had to hit him at 20 mile an hour with a railroad spike. Now, as time has advanced, we have got bows out there shooting 310, 312, 320. I think one of them companies come out with one here a few years back that they said would chrono 245 or 345, 350. Probably not set up for hunting. Some of them claim they would. But folks, we are shooting speeds now in the last 10 years, I'll say since 2016, 17, 2015, and especially from 2020 to now at 2025. We are shooting bows on 60 now that are pushing 290, 310, 320, 285, Why in the world are you folks thinking that you need an arrow that weighs 685 grains to go through a deer's rib cage at 30 yards with a new bow on 65 or 70 pounds that's shooting over 300 feet a second? Okay? We shot them heavy, massive arrows because them bows were slow. All right? I hear more people talking about, well, I put this 50 grain weight on the end of my arrow, now my arrow flexes. Yeah, it's going to. Because you got this big, massive weight up here, and you got that little skinny arrow back here that you've been shooting 100 grains off of, and now this arrow's trying to push, and it's bending, and it's twisting, and it's bending, and it's twisting. So now what do you got to do? Got to go to the archery shop. You got to beef up your spine. You got to figure out if it's too heavy, it's too light. Now you're buying a new set of arrows. And now you're trying to put all of that FOC on these brand new arrows. I get it. These bows nowadays, I watch them on TV all the time. They're shooting deer at 45, 50, 60 yards. The average guy that walks into the shop, and this is just me talking because I'm one of them, the shop where I work stays dead from February to August. Why? Because come the end of January and bow season's over, the bow hits the closet and the fishing pole comes out or the turkey gun comes out. And they pick their bow back up in August. You know why I know that? Because I don't do any business from February, March, April, May. June, I start getting a little busy. July, after July the 4th, then I get real busy. First week of September, 30, 40 people standing in that shop ready to rock and roll. And it's the same people that I haven't seen since last bow season. So the average guy shoots his bow about 2 months a year, puts it in the closet, grabs the muzzle loader or the gun when the gun season opens, okay? We got new sights now with 7, 8, 9 pins on them. We got new single pin sights that'll roll out to 100 yards. I get it, folks. I get it. But guys and gals, listen. I can honestly tell you and walk you to the spot it happened in. The longest shot I've ever took on a deer was 38 yards, and that was in an open field. And I've been shooting these guys since 1980. Shot my first one in 1980. Shot them every year since. So this FOC thing, look, I got a 63-pound bow on 27 inches. I shoot a 27-inch arrow. I shoot a 100 grain, 3-blade, mechanical broadhead. A lot of talk about mechanicals, good or bad. I shot some of the first mechanicals that ever come out. Back in the day, Tennessee's first mechanicals that I ever saw was called a Puckett blood trailer. Had a little plunger button on the end. When it went in, shot the blades out, just like a Rage and them do. But it had a little collar on it. It looked like the end of a straw had been cut off and put on it. And I've shot mechanicals plumb up to this day. Mechanical and fixed, okay? I would swear on a stack of Bibles that in the last 10 years, I have never had an arrow stop in a deer. Every one of them went clean through. I think my arrow with a 100 grain head and the normal one, I'm shooting a 2-inch blazer vanes and a 100 grain head of a 63-pound bow with a 27-inch draw. I'm pushing like 273, 275 feet per second. And it goes clean through. Now, I shoot an arrow that on my 27 inches and 63 pounds, it doesn't even get close to being a heavy spine like I'm shooting. But I'm shooting an arrow that is supposed to be for 70 pounders. You know, they got 340s, 400s, 500s. the lower the number gets, the stiffer the spine gets. I'm shooting a 340 of a 63-pound bow with a 27 inches. It says I need a 400. To me, that's just something you look at on the back of the chart, you know. You do have to pay attention to it a little bit. I wouldn't want to put a 500 spine arrow on a 63-pound bow. It's going to blow it up. It's not made for it. But shooting these 650, 700 grain arrows, and I know why. I mean, I get it. You're trying to shoot deer at 45, 50 yards. The big craze here lately in the last 7, 8 years, especially in American archery, everybody's going after bullwinkle. Okay? They want the big bragging horns. You know, that's fine. But you don't need a 900 grain arrow that we shot in 1979, in 1985, in 1989 to go through these deer's rib cages. You're killing your speed. You guys will have a 5, 6, 7 pin sight or a single pin roller sight. You're shooting a 650 grain arrow. I tell you what I would like to see. I haven't seen on YouTube. I would like to see y'all take them big, heavy arrows and your chronograph outside. And I'd like to see you shoot it at 10 and chrono it, 20, chrono it, 30, chrono it, 40, chrono it, 50, chrono it, 60 and chrono it. As long as you can shoot your arrow down through there and not hit your $700 chronograph. But I'd like to see how much drop and how much speed loss you're getting off that 650 grain arrow with that 150 grain head on the front of it. Total weight at 50 yards. And I wish you could put some kind of little something behind it so when that arrow's going through there, we can maybe slow-mo it and see just how much drop you got. You know, I've seen some of them bows come in with 4 pins on them, and you got 20, 30, 40, and then 50 is way down here. Shouldn't I tell you something? Stop doing that. Please. You're driving me nuts. We shot them big old heavy arrows because, again, them bows shot 190 to 210, 12 feet a second was all you could get out of them. Some of them older bows from 1975, 76, 77, you was real lucky to get 180 feet a second out of it, and you had to crank it up to do that. Okay? That's why we hit him with a railroad spike at 20 mile an hour. Now you guys have got bows doing 150 miles an hour, and you're trying to push a doggone railroad spike off of it at 60 yards. You don't need to do that, okay? In my opinion, a good 385 to 405 grain arrow with 100 grain or 125 grain head on the front, with today's new bows, you pop him in the rib cage and it's going to clean out the other side. There might be instances where it'll stick in the other shoulder blade, but I have people come in all the time and go, man, I hit him in the shoulder blade, but it didn't go clean through. I've seen guys shoot them with 50 cal muzzle loaders, didn't go through a shoulder bone. Okay, it's bone. It's a big round knuckle bone, especially if you hit that. So, you know, the FOC thing, I don't get. Not in 2025. I did it back in the 70s. I did it back in the 80s. Did it a little bit in the 90s. But guys and gals, again, we're shooting speeds on 60 now that we were shooting on 70 20 years ago. You don't need a railroad spike for an arrow. I hope that kind of makes a little sense to you. Again, I've been told I needed by my grandsons and stuff, you know, like, Papa, let's make a few videos. Well, I don't know what to do. I've never done this stuff before. I'm an old man. Low-tech man in a high-tech world. So if you're shooting 55 to 70 pounds, get you a good arrow that weighs about 8.5 to 9 grains an inch. Throw you 100 or 125 grain head on the front of it. Sight your bow in and go hunting. Get your shots down to that 35-yard mark and in. Hit them in the rib cage, and it'll go clean through. If bullwinkle walks through, it'll go clean through, okay? So, again, kind of what I named these videos is stop doing that. You don't need to. My name's Billy. Listen, I know it sounds like a gripe session. You want to leave me comments, that's fine. God bless everybody, and y'all have a nice day now.